Hello, everyone listening on the official Round No.1 YouTube channel. I'm your host, Michael. We've got a lot to cover today, so let's start with the thing that exposed everything wrong with WWE's idea of legacy, the 2026 Hall of Fame. I didn't watch it. I refused to watch it. I wasn't staying up past midnight just to watch Stephanie McMahon headline as the only woman in the class, especially when the Jumping Bomb Angels spent months pushing for recognition with tens of thousands of fans donating, sharing, and campaigning for them to get inducted for their 40th anniversary in 2026. And here's the part that really burns me. WWE acknowledged them on TV leading into WrestleMania. They called them the former women's tag team champions. They used their name for nostalgia points. But when it came time to actually honor them, suddenly the company went silent because this year had to be Stephanie's night. We've seen this pattern before. Sid, Vader, so many others. WWE waits until people die, then pretends they always cared. It's easy to reconcile with the company when the people you wronged can't speak anymore. It's the same energy we saw when Stephanie told Cody Rhodes that Dusty was her friend, but conveniently didn't mention that she helped end his TV run years ago over petty on-screen nonsense. And while we're talking about WWE's decisions that make no sense, let's talk about that new headquarters in Stamford. 400,000 to 450,000 square feet. That's almost the size of arenas hosting Raw and SmackDown. Titan Towers was 95,000 square feet. Like, even if they needed more space, like, why that much? And you're telling me they couldn't carve out like 40,000 or 60,000 square feet for like a physical Hall of Fame, a real one with committee, with legitimacy, with history. Instead, we have a giant office and a Hall of Fame that only exists when WWE feels like using it as a PR tool. And that brings me back to Stephanie, hopefully for the last time. She didn't contribute anything meaningful as in-ring talent. As an executive, she gave pregnant women some job security, which is good, but still didn't provide health insurance, travel, or hotel coverage when they returned. And now she's in the Hall of Fame before countless women who actually built the foundation of women's wrestling. AJ Styles said that the Hall of Fame would feel more special if it didn't happen every year. I like AJ, but that's not the solution. Skipping years just means more people die before they get honored. Like, what would make the Hall of Fame special is building a real Hall of Fame, honoring people while they're alive, and stop using this ceremony as a McMahon family scrapbook. Let's talk about WrestleMania 42. In this era of wrestling discourse, I've noticed something. People online are terrified of being labeled negative. They don't want to get blocked, muted, or thrown to the hater box. But let's be real. It's perfectly fair to criticize TKO and the way they've handled WrestleMania since the merger. And it's more than fair to criticize Paul Levesque as the chief content officer because Somehow he's the one person everyone refuses to hold accountable. To this day, fans blame The Rock and TKO for the disaster that was WrestleMania 41. They blame John Cena's heel turn. They blame corporate interference. But Paul Levesque, he walks away untouched like he had no hand in any of it. This is a guy who spent decades in the business, worked with the top stars, learned directly under Vince McMahon, dated and married into the family, and was handed corporate titles that he wasn't academically qualified for, all because he was the chosen son-in-law. And yet, with all that experience, he's forgotten what the road to WrestleMania is supposed to feel like. Now, say what you want about Vince, and trust me, I've said a lot about Vince, but he knew how to create the atmosphere. Even when the shows weren't great, there was anticipation about watching them. WrestleMania 39, pretty damn good. WrestleMania 40, awesome. But WrestleMania 41 and 42, these are, in my opinion, the first true Triple H era WrestleManias without Vince's fingerprints. And they are nowhere near the same level. Night 1 of WrestleMania 42 flew by like a SmackDown taping in a stadium. I looked at the clock. It was like barely 9 p.m. and John Cena was already out there announcing the main event. The pacing of the show felt extremely rushed. And then we get to the main event, Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton, a match that should have felt monumental, but instead turned to a circus. Pat McAfee sprinting down in a referee shirt, inserting himself into the match like a kid jumping into a pickup game. How does Triple H greenlight something that corny and not expect backlash? And the finish, a TV-style cliffhanger at WrestleMania. Cody wins clean, but Orton gets the final shot holding the belt as he won. If you stepped away for 2 minutes, bathroom break, grabbed a drink, whatever, you'd come back thinking Orton walked out of WrestleMania as the actual champion. In my opinion, that should never happen at the conclusion of WrestleMania ever. Night 1 was forgettable, and that's the problem. WrestleMania should never feel forgettable. Night 2 came in as the clear upgrade. The energy was bigger, the pacing was tighter, and the matches finally felt like they belong on a WrestleMania stage. And that's the wild part. Most of these matches had almost no real build. Seth versus Gunter and Brock versus Oba Femi were thrown together with barely a few weeks of story, and yet they still delivered more big fight presence than anything from night 1. But the real spotlight was Sunday's main event, CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. On paper, that's a great WrestleMania matchup. In the stadium, it felt like a WrestleMania main event. But once the bell rang, the match exposed something deeper, not about Punk or Roman, but about WWE's booking philosophy right now. Roman spent the match doing things that should have gotten him disqualified. Not borderline stuff, blatant DQ worthy actions, and the referee just let it rock. No hesitation, no warning, no consequences. Then Punk fires back with a low blow, but he hides it from the ref like it's a crime scene. And that's where the whole thing cracks. Like, why does Punk have to hide his cheating when Roman doesn't? Why does the match have rules for one guy and not the other? Because this wasn't a story driven match. This was a politically protected match. WWE wasn't booking Punk versus Roman. They're booking Don't Damage Punk versus Don't Damage Roman. And when you try to protect both guys at the same time, the match ends up breaking up its own internal logic. It stops feeling like a fight and starts to feel like a corporate negotiation. Now, tonight's final story is the one that shook the entire industry, not because it was surprising, but because of what it signals. And as you may know, WWE just executed over 24 wrestlers across Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, including names that were actively featured on television and names that fans assumed were protected. And here's the part that matters. Like, this was a Triple H call. Multiple outlets confirmed that Paul Levesque, Nick Khan, and Talent Relations were the one who made the decisions, with Levesque having the final say. And reasoning behind the cuts, probably a shift toward leaner roster and preparation for the potential format change of SmackDown. You probably heard the news. SmackDown is moving back to 2 hours. But the timing is what turns this from a story into a statement, because in the same week these releases hit the news cycle, Triple H signed a brand new multi-year contract to remain the chief content officer of the WWE. According to news reports, WWE President Nick Khan announced it during a TKO all-hands-on meeting, confirming that Levesque will continue running creative for years to come. Reports say the deal was finalized before WrestleMania 42 and could run as long as 3 years. According to reports, Khan doubled down on his support for Triple H, dismissing online criticism as a vocal minority and emphasizing that WWE's creative direction is stable, consistent, and firmly in Levesque's hands. So what does this all mean? It means that Triple H didn't just secure his job, he secured his era. The releases weren't random. They weren't panic moves. They were the first major roster reset of the post-Vince era, executed by a creative head who now has the contract, the authority, and the corporate backing to shape WWE exactly how he wants. And this is the clearest message yet. The Triple H era isn't beginning, it's locking in. And if this is how he starts his new contract, the next few months are going to redefine the entire landscape. So, with that being said, we're going to draw this episode to a close. If you have any comments, leave them down below. I'll be happy to answer them. This is Michael of Round No.1. We'll see you in a couple of days.